So we're sort of talking about two things. We're not really, but just to discuss it, we're talking about two things. One is seeking, and one is the end of seeking. Seeking is an experience that arises out of a contracted energy in the body, which you call the knower. The knower seeks. The knower is often referred to as I am. So I am is an experience. I am here, for example. And when that experience is happening, I know I am, and that experience then seeks. Because knowing isn't really the satisfaction that the individual would think it is. Knowing is need. The need to seek, the need to find something else. Knowing creates the need to know. So it never ends. And what seeking will do is it has certain questions that it thinks are important. Like, what is this? Who am I? What's the meaning and purpose of my life? How do I find happiness? How do I become a good person? These are the questions that the seeker, I am, asks. And of course it's asking the questions because it doesn't know. But the basis of that experience is I know. Yeah. And that creates those questions which it can't seem to find satisfactory answers to. And this meeting is actually not about that, although that's one thing that we can describe and talk about. The meeting is actually a destruction. It's an offer of destruction of that seeking energy. And what it doesn't have, the end of seeking, is not anything what the seeker would expect, or what the knower would expect, or what the knower would want. So the end of seeking isn't an answer to any of the questions. So this doesn't have any of those answers. So there's no answer to what the meaning of life is. If there is, if you find an answer to the meaning of life, that will be seeking. That will be you following a path which will never end, because the meaning of life never comes to a point, because it always has to do with knowing, which is the need to know, which is moving on. Or the purpose, same thing, going on and on and on and on. Or who am I? Goes on and on and on, up to, and I'm not kidding, 13 levels of realization, 3 of them above the head in Buddhism, where the 13th is the oh, I don't know, I'm just being silly, but it really is that. They really do that. And that, you could say, is the reflection of what this will be if you seek. So as long as they're seeking, this gives what's sought. More knowing. That's all you can find, is more knowing. If you find money, it's just knowing. If you find more sex, it's just experience with another form of knowing. If you find spiritual realization, it's just more knowing. You just try to add to yourself more and more and more knowing. And it really boils down to, right now, a contracted energy looking for the next better experience. Just the next experience. That's all that's happening. That's where all of that, what we're talking about, comes from. That's where the 13 levels of Buddhist realization come from. That's where all the religion comes from. That's where all of it comes from. That all meaning and purpose, all of that comes out of the need for something else to happen. And that need for something to happen is an initial knowing I am. That creates that next need. And the message is, that's hopeless. That situation, that entire construct, is a Teufelskreis. Can everybody speak German?
Vicious circle.
A vicious circle, thank you. A vicious circle of knowing, creating the need to know, of knowing, creating the need to know, of knowing, creating the need to know. That's all it is. And the messages, or what's being shared here, is pointing that out. And that it can never find what it's looking for. It can't find what it's looking for because the assumption that it has that something needs to happen is illusory. and that illusory experience of something needs to happen hides this as the fulfillment it is already. Not as a knowing, not as an understanding, not as an experience or feeling, but as the end of the need for it to be anything. The end for the next moment. And this, as it is completely unspeakable. You can't say a word about it. It's not knowing, nor is it not knowing.